It's Monday, June 20th, 2011. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, DNS.
Let's do this.
So, I got the BlackBerry for work, which I hate and really just turn off unless there's like the very few times where I'm on call for something. And I hate BlackBerries. They're like the worst possible smartphone. They have all the bad qualities of a corporate phone without any of the good qualities of a smartphone.
Well, actually, I think BlackBerries don't get enough credit because, I'm not saying they're good or anything.
Well, no, they get credit from me in the same way that Dungeons & Dragons gets credit.
No, what I'm saying is that there's 99% of people who have BlackBerries have them hooked up to the company's network on a BlackBerry enterprise server with all this stuff, right? If you actually get a BlackBerry, and they don't get the newest, fanciest ones either. It's usually whichever one the company gives you.
Oh, we have all the newest, fanciest ones. I pointedly refuse to get the upgrade. I still have that asshole BlackBerry. You know why? The battery lasts like 2 weeks.
That's true. But if you get the newest, fanciest possible BlackBerry, and it's not like hooked up to a company and locked down or whatever, it's actually got, you can do a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, but here's one thing I've noticed. Everyone I know who has a BlackBerry, Google Latitude either doesn't work or just sucks.
Well, yeah, because
way sucks.
They're not big on the GPS in BlackBerries is not the hottest.
Yeah, and the batteries don't last that long, and the interface is pretty bad. And I don't like BlackBerries. I've had to use them for much of my life.
I don't understand why it seems like there's a whole bunch of people. This class
like
of people, especially business,
I'll tell you why.
Businessmen who are high up.
I'll tell you why.
And they want a BlackBerry because it has a keyboard, and they want to write long emails on it.
That's not why they want it. Here's why they say they like the interface.
Well, that's what they say.
No. Because first of all, until recently, my BlackBerry still doesn't have the little wheel. Because a lot of them are not touchscreens. Like most of them aren't. It has the slidey wheel, like the mouse wheel on the side for your thumb.
Yep.
And what happened
Some of them have the nub on the front.
Yeah, that's kind of new. And a lot of people actually hate that. And they want the old BlackBerry because they want the old way.
Yep.
These people had BlackBerries back when only rich executives and middle management people had BlackBerries. It was like a status symbol. And they learned about, they felt very powerful and very cool using this technology. This was like ultra modern, I'm connected all the time, when most people didn't even have a normal cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those people are still in business. They're like the super senior executives and the CEOs and all those people, the upper management. And people just never change. And because they've been using that interface for so long, they're used to it, and they still have this misplaced desire. Like, they feel like it's something worth being accustomed to. Kind of like the people who like to use the stupid Bloomberg terminal. It's like the worst interface in the world, but people feel accomplished when they learn it, especially because it feels like expert knowledge when really it's just obtuse, proprietary, stupid knowledge.
That is an aspect, but, even just today, I was on the train from Connecticut, and I heard two guys discussing, I try to Android and I try to iPhone, but it just doesn't, I need the real keyboard so I can type real fast. And it's like, I think these people's problems, right, is that they are writing tons and tons of either
I saw a guy
short or few really long or tons of long emails on their BlackBerry.
I saw a guy on Metro North on multiple occasions back when I used to take the train who had a little keyboard that he'd take out of a bag and plug into his BlackBerry.
What the fuck?
And then he'd type like it was a computer.
Yeah, see, these people, it's like they want to write really long emails on their BlackBerry. The solution is don't write long emails on the BlackBerry. Then you won't need a real keyboard, and you can just only write short emails.
The solution is laptop. Just use a laptop.
It's like, I even know that Robert Koo is one of those people who has the BlackBerry and writes tons of emails on it.
To be fair,
he needs to have the physical keyboard.
To be fair, I've gotten emails from Robert Koo, and they're always short BlackBerry-style emails. They're always just...
But the point is that he's one of those people that
with as little punctuation as possible.
He'll tell you that he absolutely needs the physical keyboard because he, writes a lot of emails and needs to write them fast.
See, now I'll say I prefer the physical keyboard. I dislike the touchscreen keyboard, but
I dislike the touchscreen keyboard at first, but you get used to it, right?
Oh yeah, I'm used to it.
It's the same way as
Yeah, Scott, I'm saying I'm used to it, but I still, given the choice, I would take the physical keyboard over the digital keyboard.
I would not, because I'll take the extra screen real estate.
Yeah, well, I could have both. Keyboard could be on the back.
Yeah, but then it's got to be a slider.
No, I really like slider.
I don't like it because then it's fatter.
My Pre is not fatter than most people's droids.
It's fatter than the iPhone.
Not by much.
It is. You'd be surprised.
Plus, it's so
It's
much
just
smaller
curved,
form
so it's
factor
tricky.
wise. The Pre still fits in
Yeah,
my
it has
pocket
less
better than
because it
anything
has
else.
less screen. The iPhone is all screen.
It had the
except for
same
one
resolution
button.
as the previous iPhone.
Yeah, the Retina display kicks everyone's ass. That's just too bad.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not saying. I mean, I like my Nexus S, but if I could have the Nexus S, yet somehow also have a physical keyboard in it that did not make it heavier or thicker, I would do that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a preference. All things being equal.
I mean, I'll take a physical keyboard, but the problem is the trade-offs necessary for it are more important.
But
than,
anyway,
you
it's the other problems with BlackBerries are that I think a lot of the people who use them are the kinds of people who want to be connected to their business all the time. Now, some people, it's because their business is their passion, because we're talking about Robert Koo. I mean, if I was connected to
Yeah, he just
Geeknights all
works
the
all
time.
day.
Oh, wait, I am connected to Geeknights all the time. Oh, with my droid. Huh.
which doesn't have a keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think these people, too, I've watched a lot of old people interacting with phones, especially if they get a new, more fancy BlackBerry. They seem to not understand or want to use any of the other features of the phone, and they really want it to just turn on and show them all their email, whether or not they have an internet connection. That's all they care about.
It's the same problem that, these are the same old things we talk about all the time. Like the
No,
guy
who says
who
it's a
says,
problem?
yeah, it's like, oh, the guy who needs a car, but he says, who needs a car? I never left this town in my life. And then you eventually force him to leave the town, and he goes, oh, and he realizes there's a whole world outside the town, and now he absolutely desperately needs a car because a whole world is open to him that he didn't know about. He was just too stubborn to go look at the world, so he didn't know that he wanted it and needed it. And
See, I
it's
think the
same
difference
thing.
is that young
These people
nerds-
never used those other things on their BlackBerries, so they never knew they wanted them, and you have to force them to use them, so that they realize that it's something they want.
Well, like young nerds have the opposite problem of they want things that don't exist yet.
Yeah, it's the
And
opposite problem.
they just wait until they can afford it. I mean, when the BlackBerry first existed, every nerd wanted one, kind of like how you wanted a fancy Palm back when there was Palm.
Yep.
And then, I got a fancy Palm. IBM gave me one, and I realized 5 seconds in that it was useless.
Well, that was after Fancy Palm was no longer, it
but
was
it
already
was still
dead.
that was before cell phones. I did
Well-
not have a cell phone when I first got my Palm.
That's pretty sad.
You got a cell phone around that
I
time.
had a cell phone in the year 2000.
Yeah.
You got that Palm Pilot when you were already in, Beacon.
No, you got the phone. I remember we were in Colony when you got it because we took it to that con.
I had it in the year 2000.
Did you?
Yep.
All right. So the next year, I got a phone.
All right.
Yeah, I think you were the only one in the
2001.
crew. Because remember, we went to Otakon, and you had the cell phone, so we had to call the one other person in the crew who had the cell phone that he had a track phone or something,
Yep.
the old equivalent of a track phone.
Yep. Anyway.
Anyway, so I wasn't really going anywhere with that, other than that I've got an app on my Droid that gives me access through some company to my enterprise BlackBerry stuff.
So it's a BlackBerry Enterprise 2 IMAP translation server.
Well, it acts like that in terms of my company trusts it, which is a first, and a lot of big companies seem to be using this thing. But it actually interfaces directly with our Exchange server as opposed to with our BlackBerry Enterprise.
The iPhone, you can just go into the settings and enable the Cisco VPN and just connect to your company's network and then go to the Exchange server directly.
Yeah, if they let you do that. Most companies I've seen won't let anyone even consider that.
I mean, if there's, they gave me a Cisco VPN client, so I could just use the same credentials and they can't stop me. And then the iPhone is just a device that talks to the Exchange server, so they can't. What can they do about it?
Yep.
They have to specifically target the iPhone and disable that. But even though I don't actually have to do that because they enabled Active Sync on the Exchange server, which means I can just go to it directly from the phone and it does the pushing.
Yep. So I just have now Droid. I have the full integration with Exchange, and it's pretty great for what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I use the same people might not know this, but Gmail has a feature, Gmail Sync, where basically Google licensed the Exchange server Active Sync technology from Microsoft. They pay Microsoft money for this. So Google has what appears to be Exchange servers, right? They look like Exchange servers as far as your phone is concerned, but really it's Gmail on the other side. So you tell your phone or whatever it is that, connect to this Exchange server at mail.google.com, and you get your Gmail pushed to you, automatically on your BlackBerry or whatever it is, but it's Gmail. But it works like Exchange as far as the phone knows. And that's the way I go.
Yeah. So my BlackBerry is now off in the corner, and I might just give it back.
Yeah. It also does, calendars and all those other things too, contacts. And,
Yep.
All that
I get
good
all
stuff.
that. The context didn't sync yet, but it doesn't really matter.
I don't sync the company context because I don't want. I use the personal context, but I can sync the company calendar and the personal Google Calendar together in the same iPhone calendar.
I want to keep mine very separate.
But it's the same UI, so it's like they're still separate calendars.
Yeah, this thing has its own UI.
One of the calendars is on the company's Exchange server, and one of the calendars is on Gmail. But they're both in the same calendar app on the iPhone.
See, this thing exists as its own standalone app. So inside of that is like all work, and then I close it and no work.
Oh, see, I click on there's the email app, but in the email app, each email account is separate, so the emails aren't like shuffled together or anything like that.
Now on the pre, they would have been, but. So, I do briefly want to talk about, we're not going to do a show on it or anything, but lulzsec has been the rising star of the internet lately.
I guess so.
And I'm curious what's really going on because, I mean, look at we had for a long time. Remember the era of script kiddies when suddenly like every, I don't know, IIS server in the world was hacked by script kiddies just like every day.
Yep.
And then things kind of calmed down for a while, and we've had this long era of relative peace on the internet.
It wasn't relative peace. I think that it was just the peace. The war was not highly visible, right? And a lot of the people who formerly were writing viruses moved to things like spyware, and the motivations became, switched from making mischief or hurting people or whatever to or being cool and hacking to making money.
Oh, but simultaneously, there was, I think, a lack of attacks on a lot of the low-hanging fruit. Because there was a time when there was low-hanging fruit, like, oh, dude, that guy's running IIS 3, here I go, versus, oh, it's Apache, I'm not going to even bother.
Well, I mean, part of it was, a lot of those low-hanging fruits disappeared.
Yep, but I think what's happened now is that it's not that lulzsec is going after the low-hanging fruit. It's that because people have been into this relative peace for a while, or at least this perception of peace, that it's all low-hanging fruit. I mean,
there's lots of low-hanging fruit because because of various technologies that make it, easier and easier for non-professionals to create software and set up systems.
Oh, not even that. Wasn't it City, I think, was the one where they hacked all the accounts just by logging into one account and then changing the string in the URL?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
because there
that
aren't...
fruit's already on the ground. That's not even low-hanging. That's like rotten on the ground being carried away by a squirrel.
But this is what I'm talking about, is that there aren't enough highly skilled and highly knowledgeable technology people in the world. And there's a lot of people who are like, I just want to get a website up. And I'm like, do you realize how many things you have to know to get the website to put a website up that's actually, right. It's this, you have to know this vast amount of knowledge. And the thing is, some guy puts up some HTMLs or does the Ruby on Rails tutorial and puts something up and he feels all accomplished. But really, he's basically set up a rickety shack. He just thinks it's a mansion. To actually build a house that will stand up and not a house of cards is like this ludicrously difficult thing that not enough people can do, but there's not a high enough number of people who can do it properly as the demand is for people who can do it, and the result is there's a whole lot of rickety shacks out there.
It is kind of amazing, though, that it's not like, all right, this is a pretty well-done system that has a few fatal flaws, like someone was careless. It's like... I don't even know how to describe it. It's like they don't even try. It's like there's no one who even has ever heard of security.
It's also because the people who are the experts technologically, we've discussed this many times, right? Companies tend to either have all smart tech people or all stupid tech people. Because if you have a stupid person, the smart people won't hire them. And if you have stupid people in charge, they'll hire stupid people. But if any smart person gets hired there, they'll bail and try to go work where smart people work. And as a result, you've got like Facebook with thousands and thousands of really smart tech people, or Google with thousands of smart tech people, and they're all, teamed up at this one...
I was waiting for you to say a name of someone that has all stupid people.
All of the other ones.
All of them? Everyone?
A lot of them.
Yeah.
You basically have the smart tech people teaming up on these huge teams at very specific places like Google. None of these attacks have been on Google, right? Or Microsoft or anything like that.
Well, I mean, look at who Google got compromised by the Chinese government.
And barely so.
But, I mean, lulzsec... I'm not sure what it really is because, there was that anonymous, like, hey, let's fuck shit up video a little while ago. And
yep.
I don't know, lulzsec's a little too high profile. And I'm going to put on my conspiracy hat. Let me get the tin foil. It is possible that lulzsec is a false flag operation to get all the script kiddies and all the people who self-identify as being these kinds of hackers to basically out themselves by attacking low-hanging honeypots.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's possible.
It is possible, but a lot of things are possible.
Yeah, but at the same time, the reason I don't hold to that is that there is that much low-hanging fruit. You know, engineers always say, you know, when there's a terrorist attack, engineers aren't evil, but they always have that twinge. They think, wow, I could have done that way better. Or, yeah, they're lucky I'm not evil.
But I think what lulzsec demonstrates is that even though, you know, they're getting low-hanging fruit like SQL injections or DDoSs or whatever.
Well, low-hanging fruit works on almost everyone.
Right, is that even though their skill level isn't very high, it's that if you even just use a modicum of security modern technologies, like you use real encryption, that doesn't suck, and you put some proxies between you and your IRC server, you can just chat about your hacks on a perfectly like public IRC, and no one will ever catch you. You know?
Yep.
It's like all the pedophiles do the same thing. There's just
Well, I mean, look at the converse of this. So the government, obviously, there are organizations that would like to arrest the people involved in all this internet, shenanigan vandalism.
And they can't find them, even though they're using just simple, basic stuff.
Occasionally, they get one or two of these people, and you know who they're getting? The low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. Nobody, if anyone actually does uses any serious technology, no one can get you. It's so encrypted, it's unbreakable, and that's just available for free, open source.
Good luck, I'm behind 7 proxies.
Right. And this is why, the government is, I guess governments around the world are really afraid of if everyone used open source software, right? Like, imagine if everyone abandoned Apple and Windows, and everyone just started using Linux tomorrow, and everyone, put GPG on their email. Game over. It's like, everyone in the world is so secure that it's impossible to get any information from anyone unless they want to give it to you. All the days of like, oh my God, my Facebook was hacked, or oh my God, someone stole my Xbox.
This is why I'm kind of enjoying lulzsec's modus operandi, because I saw I'm following their Twitter now just to see what they're up to, but notice how they're very pointedly going
look, you
after...
can have a Twitter account and not be caught by any...
Notice how they're going very pointedly after very easy targets, and they're trying to get them in the least sophisticated way possible, because that brings way more public shame. I mean, if you get someone, they said something like, you get someone with a really complicated hack, I mean, what's the news going to say? Super elite hackers got this company, as opposed to this company was so egregiously insecure that it was ridiculous.
But on the other hand, right, it's like, what if you walk down the street and there's 2 different buildings, right? One of them is the museum of the fine arts, and the other one is an old lady's house.
Yeah.
If you rob the old lady's house, it's like, yeah, good job, dude. Yeah, whatever. But if you rob the museum, you're a total badass.
But they're not trying to be badasses. They're trying to just shame people. Imagine if...
Right, but at the same time, they're shaming themselves, because it's like, obviously they're shaming people because it's like, oh, look, you didn't even lock your door. But it's like, okay, dude, wow, you're so great. You busted into a house with an unlocked door.
But at the same time, this is a situation...
You're awesome, dude.
Scott, this is a situation where there's an entire city, and everyone in that city, they've never heard of doors.
Yeah.
So these guys just walk into the city and take everything.
Yeah.
And then they walk out, and they're like, you mad?
It still doesn't, yeah. It's funny in that way, but it doesn't make them look great.
So my position here is that I'm curious as to whether or not the people involved in this have the ability to do the big hack.
I doubt it.
I don't know. Because
I think that anyone with the ability to do the big hack, all those people who had or have that ability currently, are not going to, they could make more money and more in a safer fashion, so they don't do that.
For now.
Even the Kevin Mitnicks of the world who used to do the big hack don't do it anymore.
No, but what if, the government pisses them off enough?
The other thing is I don't think the big hack is possible because the people who are targets of the big hack, they use those very same encryption technologies.
Scott, let's put this in perspective. I mean, what does it mean to do the big hack? I mean,
all right, think of a big hack.
No, considering how insecure, I mean, a lot of these targets are like banks and things.
Yeah, but for example, the Citibank hack, they put in, user IDs, and they were able to see how much money people had. They couldn't actually spend or transfer any money.
So, Scott, to the average American, that sort of, it's not just that they could see, they could manipulate too, and also getting the passwords. You can, like, if you find someone's password on, say, Facebook, you probably have their password to everything else they've got.
Probably.
And then you can start stealing their money.
So you got some random guy on Facebook. Good job. That's not a big hack.
Yeah, but if you get everybody on Facebook, that causes chaos to a degree that is unsettling.
Yeah, but notice nobody's hacked Facebook because Facebook has smart people working at it.
Yeah, but Facebook is now vulnerable to, if you have a Facebook account and you have an account anywhere else, the majority of people use the same password everywhere.
Right,
if
but
any one of those places.
But it doesn't. That doesn't count. That's like you didn't actually hack Facebook. You just hacked.
Scott,
you hacked. The target wasn't Facebook.
Scott,
the target was that guy.
If you're a con man, right? If you get the $1 million, it's the big score. It doesn't matter how you got it.
It doesn't. It's not the same. Because let's say I find 1,000 morons and I take advantage of those morons,
and you get $1 million out of it.
Yeah, it's like but it doesn't matter how much I get. The point is, all I did was the thing that was. What's it called? I can't think of this word right now.
But I guess in that case, there's two separate things. There's the pragmatic reality of how much damage and or theft happens as a result of their action. You could use that as the scale as what the big hack is. Or I thinking you're more from the Lupin, the Sting style. If you're gonna pull off a heist, it doesn't matter how much you get. What matters is how awesome and elaborate it is.
Well, it's not about how elaborate it is. It's that you didn't actually hack Facebook, right? You can't do that. You
don't
suck,
need to,
right? You hacked a bunch of morons who happen to have Facebook accounts,
Scott, the morons,
and everyone else with the Facebook account is totally safe.
Scott, the morons are the majority. I'm pretty sure if you hacked enough sites out there, like even Slashdot and things, you could probably compromise a majority of the Facebook accounts.
Yeah, but you didn't actually compromise Facebook.
Who cares?
Facebook is still solid.
Well, they're solid except for the fact that everyone's account just got wiped out.
Right. So here, I got a way to explain this. You ready? So I stand outside of a bank branch.
Yeah.
Right. And everyone who walks out of the bank branch, I mug them and take the money they just took out of the ATM.
And you get away with this every day?
Yes. But the bank is still totally secure.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because you got your money.
But the bank is just like, bank doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, but the customers do, so you effectively
I compromised the customers, not the bank.
I didn't say you compromised the bank.
Which is basically, it's stupid.
I said the effect is the same. You got your money, and an equivalent amount of money was stolen from people.
Yeah, from people, but not from the bank.
If I steal it from the bank, I would effectively be stealing it from the people, but for the FDIC.
Yeah, you can't. The point is you can't steal it from the bank because
Who cares?
I care.
Why?
Because that's not the big hack.
So
that's
what
we were just discussing was whether anyone will pull off the big hack.
Scott, I think
a
we
million
disagree.
little hacks is not the big hack.
Scott, I think we disagree on what the big hack is. Because for me, the big hack just means something that affects so many people so significantly that no one can ignore
that's
it.
a million little hacks the way you're talking about it. That's not the big hack.
I would consider that the big hack.
I don't consider that
because
the big hack. It's a million little
same.
hacks. It doesn't matter the effect. Those are a million little hacks.
Yeah, and you know what? The effect's the same.
It doesn't matter. It's not the no, it's not actually. If you stole from the bank directly, the effect would be completely different than if you stole from all those people individually.
I argue no.
Actually, yeah, it would, because think about what the bank would have to do.
Scott,
right?
banks
how the money would move versus
banks,
what insurances would pay out.
Scott, banks, but in the end, the same amount of economic damage is done.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, plus banks have problems like that all the time. They just keep it on the down low.
That's another thing is that, who knows, the big hack has probably happened a bunch of times and we just don't know about it.
I would consider it the big hack. It's only the big hack if it affects enough people to where everybody knows what happened and everybody's affected by it.
No, because there are big hacks that are really big that you just don't know
then
about.
They're not the big hack, because who gives a shit?
They affect you, but you don't know they affected you.
If a fancy cat burglar steals a fancy diamond that isn't the Hope Diamond and no one's heard of it, who gives a shit except the people who own the diamond?
A lot of people, because it makes a really good story.
Yeah, but no one knows about that diamond. No one cares. It's not the big hack.
But sometimes there is the big hack, and it might affect you, but you don't know that it was the big hack that caused that effect, right? For example, I'm not saying this is true. I know it's not. But, the big stock market dip, what if that was a big hack, but you don't know it was a big hack because they come up with some other story, right? So it did have this humongous effect, but I'm not saying that one, but it's just an example of something that could have been the big hack and kept on the down low. Right?
Yeah, well, then it's the big hack, and Lupin succeeded. It affected everybody.
But nobody knew that it was the big hack.
Well, because in every heist movie ever, enough people know.
Only the people you see on the screen know, but the whole world doesn't know.
Yeah, look at the Sting. There's like 200 people who know.
Yeah, that's it. But it's not the big, the big hack. You actually have to hit the bank directly. You can't just hit the people walking out of the bank.
I think if I compromised 80% of Facebook's accounts by individually attacking all the users simultaneously, I think that counts as the big hack.
It doesn't count.
Anyway, you got any news?
Hacks. Yeah, I do have some news. So people might not be paying too much attention, to a lot of these goings on and various minutiae of the open source communities. But basically, there used to be a thing called Star Office, which then became Open Office, right? And then, Oracle bought Sun, and things got weird, right?
Meanwhile, I've switched to using Office because it is just better.
Well, you have to pay for that.
Yeah.
I use Google Docs. I use Microsoft Office when I can get a copy of it, but I refuse to pay for it.
Well, I have a copy on my work laptop.
I have a copy on
my
work laptop, and but I'm not going to pay for one. And
if I ever get to a point where I don't have access to Microsoft Office on any PC I use on a regular basis, I think I would buy it.
I would need it. If I had a ton of money lying around, I would buy it.
It's not that expensive.
It's hundreds of dollars.
Oh, no.
It's a lot of money
Scott,
for something that I use.
I'm currently recording Geeknights in Adobe Audition.
Which I also would not pay for.
Yeah, and then we wouldn't be doing Geeknights.
We could have used... It didn't use Audition for a very long time.
Yeah, we used Audacity, and it kind of sounded like shit, and I had to run everything through that hack Audition.
We could have continued that way.
Resound.
If we had $0, we would have continued that way with no problems.
Actually, I can't get Resound to work on modern computers.
I'm just saying, we could have continued with Audacity or whatever.
I probably would have given up. It was too much of a pain
You
in
would
the
have given
ass.
up on Geeknights completely without spending a bunch of money.
It was way too much of a pain in the ass.
You
at
did
that
it for
point.
years, anyway.
Yeah, and
you say that now, but you know what? If you had no money, we would be doing Geeknights right now with Audacity.
Maybe not.
Guaranteed.
Maybe
Anyway,
not.
yeah, okay. Anyway. Right, so there was a lot of hubbub because Oracle was abandoning a lot of the projects, or they were converting a lot of them to be more closed or whatever.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're suing Google for billions of dollars.
Yeah, well, it's a bunch of bullshit, right? So Open Office was sort of in shaky territory, right? But Open Office was, very much needed by a bunch of people where Google Docs wasn't enough for them, and they didn't want to pay for Microsoft Office. Open Office is actually really popular. It was also like a default installed thing in many Linux distributions. So it was shaky, and what eventually happened was they forked it and they made Libre Office. And it's like, all right. So the Free Software Foundation and other open source groups are like, yeah, Libre Office, that's the real deal. I think Ubuntu now has Libre Office instead of Open Office as the default. So LibreOffice came out, and it's like, okay, well, now there's two. This is great. And Open Office was then basically Oracle gave up, and they gave Open Office to the Apache Software Foundation. So now Apache has Open Office, and Free Software Foundation has LibreOffice. But LibreOffice has made some big moves that people may not realize. Number one, Google sort of threw their weight behind LibreOffice, right? Giving like a thumbs up, so that helps that a lot. Two, LibreOffice just had some releases, and basically they went through the OpenOffice code and removed a whole bunch of bullshit. Like OpenOffice is sort of notorious for being big and slow. LibreOffice has cleaned it up a whole bunch and made it way smaller and not necessarily faster, but the download size is a whole bunch less, and they've got ways to make it even smaller. They just keep working on it. So they're improving technologically a whole bunch on OpenOffice, and it's pretty much at the point now where you don't want to use OpenOffice, you want to use LibreOffice, starting, today. So, and there's actually two versions of it. There's the stable version, which they say is like, use this if you're, need stability, like in an enterprise or your company, and the sort of yellow beta-ish, use this. It has more of the work, fancy work we've done, but isn't as tested version, which you can use in your home computer probably just fine. It'll actually probably be a little bit faster and smaller than the
I mean, right now,
one.
Anytime I'm doing anything substantial, I'm writing more than a few paragraphs, I use Microsoft Office.
And I don't have Microsoft Office, so I use Google Docs.
Yeah. For everything else, I use Google Docs.
The only reason I have LibreOffice at all, right, for the because when am I going to use it, is like if I download an XLS file on a computer or something like that, and I don't have Microsoft Office because it's not my work computer.
Into Google Docs,
but there's huge limitations
sucks
on it,
ass.
and it sucks balls. If Google Docs ever gets to the point where it's like has parity with Excel, then I probably won't need to install LibreOffice.
Yeah, my trouble is Google Docs typing is okay, but the spreadsheet just really does not do what I need.
There's also a couple times you get a PPT file, and I don't have Microsoft Office on that computer because it's not the work
those I
computer.
just import into Google Docs.
But they don't always come out exactly right.
I don't even care.
Yeah, but it's
close
like
enough.
Sometimes you just want to double click it and open it. Maybe I'm not online, So I don't use it like heavily, but it's you gotta have it on that computer because that one or two times where you're gonna need it, you're gonna be like, fuck. Right?
Actually, on my laptop, I use Abbey Word just because.
Yeah, Abbey Word works if you want to do word processing, but I actually do pretty much everything in Vim.
Yeah.
Or the WordPress editor, or Google Docs, or whatever.
So I got one more little bit. So Sarah Palin, we're going to skip all the politics. Not going to express any opinion on her or anything related to that. But there was a Freedom of Information Act request to get all of her official emails years ago. It took over 1,000 days for this to be complied with, and the state of
I don't know
Alaska,
why. How could it take 1,000 days?
So the state of Alaska, when people first put these queries in, said that it would cost almost $15 million for them to provide the email.
Really?
That is how much it would cost them to get it all together and give it to
whoever
people.
said that, who said that was stupid? Because it would take about 5 minutes and $0.
So, in the end, here's what happened. They eventually came down and agreed that it would cost $725.97 plus shipping to get the archive.
Plus shipping. What do you mean plus shipping?
Yeah,
are they
plus
sending
shipping.
you a hard drive?
They're sending you 250 pounds of printed out fucking emails.
Oh, you know why? Because it's an FOIA request, and those always you just get paper. I've done those before.
You know why? No, here's what bothers me. They actually, from what I can gather, had to dump them into a digital form first, turn them into PDFs, and then print them.
Yep.
And yet they would not give anyone the digital copies. I
think the FOIA actually law requires paper to be sent.
Which one is bullshit?
Right? Well, no, because think about this, right? What if I'm a person, I'm an old lady, I don't have a computer or anything, and I send in a paper FOIA request.
Paper should be available as an option. I feel like the only reason they don't offer digital, because it would save everybody money. It would save them money. It would save the people requesting money if they only gave you paper if you asked for it.
Yeah.
I think the reason they don't change anything and the reason they give the stuff on paper is because it makes it a pain in the ass to actually request anything.
No, because they were doing it on paper before there was even digital.
Yes, and now that they can do digital, they pointedly do not do digital, and no one is trying to change this.
It's not. That's just what the law is. That's what the law says. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if that's it or not. And the thing is, all right, they provide the paper.
They're just following the law.
They could also provide the digital at no cost to anyone, yet they choose not to.
I think the law says they just send a real copy, and I think you would need to change the FOIA.
Well,
I'm not a lawyer.
But Scott, I'm saying,
obviously,
I'm pretty sure, regardless of what the law says, there is no prohibition from giving the digital version as well.
No, but what government worker is going to do something that is not required by a law?
I think because
they're going to go the extra mile to do something extra that the law doesn't say they have to do. That's never going to happen.
Well, everything I've read about this story and other Freedom of Information requests in the last decade or so seems to indicate that recently, like in the last few years, people have been flooding this office to a degree that they've never been prepared to handle. And a lot of people suggest, I'm starting to agree with this, that they want to keep it paper because that just slows down the flow of information out heavily. And the only...
but that may be true now, but that wasn't the original intent.
I didn't say it was.
Yeah.
I didn't even imply that. So instead, they shipped 24,199 pages of emails.
Yeah.
And coolly enough, the Sunlight Foundation, which basically exists to shed light on fraud and government and be open about government,
I should join them.
set up a huge thing and scan them all in and put them all online in a digital format almost immediately.
There you go. I gotta whoever they are, I gotta send them some money. Sunlight Foundation.
Sunlight Foundation.
Let me go give them a donation.
So things of the day. Have you ever heard of Gambach?
Fuck no.
It's all right. Stupid. I hate pronunciation things because Wikipedia is like a Gambach, which is G O with 2 dots over at M B O with 2 dots over at C, pronounced Gambats in Hungarian, but it's O's with lines through them and a note before the G.
Let's just call it
Gambach in English. Okay. Is a complex, three-dimensional, homogeneous body, and it has an orientation.
So it's a shape.
Yes, it's a shape with an orientation.
Okay.
No matter how you set it down, no matter what amount of force you set it down with, on a flat surface, it will always
have
right
the same
itself.
orient. Yeah, I know. I've seen those before. I just didn't know that was what that was
It's
called.
a very particular and specific shape. Now, many things that look like they're gombox are not.
But the thing is, there are more than one gombok. There's bunches of them. It's not like there's only one gombok. There's quite a few.
Well, it says specifically here that there is one particular shape, and there are other things that are like this shape. There's a whole bunch of math I don't understand.
So a gombok is one of those things that always writes itself. Because I've seen like 2 or 3 of them.
Okay, there's one particular design that most are manufactured as because they're very difficult to manufacture. They're
well, I mean, I'm sure it's very difficult to make a perfect one, right? But if you go to like science museum gift shops, you'll find quite a few.
Apparently, the cheapest one anyone can find online is like 170 pounds.
What?
To buy.
I've seen like, little gimmicky plastic things in museum gift shops.
If you let me finish, most things you see that purport to be gombox are actually weighted. Part of it's heavier than another part to make it work. A real one does not weigh. It is equally dense, uniformly dense. And yet it still always writes itself.
I have seen those also, but
and apparently turtles have shapes that resemble gombox, and that's why it's easy for them to flip themselves back over.
Yep.
There are 2 pictures of turtles in this Wikipedia article. I just learned about gombox like 20 minutes ago, so I thought I'd share this with you.
Alrighty.
Yep, there are an infinite number of gombox, theoretically.
Yeah.
But there's one particular one that appears to be the one that is made for people to buy.
For $100.
169 euros.
I suggest getting the weighted plastic thing from the museum gift shop, and that's good enough.
Quote, they may look like they were knocked together in a toy shop, but the different angles and proportions have to be measured to within 10 microns.
Yeah, you can get one that's a little less than 10 microns, and it'll work 99% of the time.
Imagine
and then
one
it'll
that works.
it'll be really fun when you get it in one of those positions where it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here's a video. I thought I did a thing of the day with this already, but I guess I didn't. It's a video called 3-Way Street. And basically, let me read the little description here on Vimeo. By summer 2010, the expansion of bike lanes in New York City opposed a clash of long-standing bad habits, such as pedestrians jaywalking, cyclists running red lights, and motorists plowing through crosswalks. By focusing on one intersection as a case study, my video aims to show our interconnection and shared role in improving the safety and usability of our streets. The video is part of a longer campaign called 3-Way Street. So in this video, basically, he picks one intersection in New York City, and he shows you, over the course of a day, all the different times that basically bad news happened, right? Most of it is cyclists who just completely ignore all traffic laws completely, except
cars are pretty bad too, though.
The cars are pretty bad, and the pedestrians are also pretty bad. It's basically pretty bad on everybody. So you've got like one guy is jaywalking, and there's a car that went right into the crosswalk, and there's a cyclist going the wrong way down the road all at the same time, and the cyclist goes right in between the pedestrian jaywalking and the car creeping in the right. And, it's basically constantly like this. I bike to work almost every day when it doesn't rain, and I can. And this is exactly what it's like. If you watch this video, you pretty much get a perfect sense of what it's like to bike to work in the New York City, except for when you're on the bridge, then it's just straight.
And it seems to just come down to the fact that the majority of people who are on bikes in the city are gigantic douche nozzles.
And cars even, basically are forced to be douche nozzles by the other cars, right? Like if you're in a car and you never turn on red and stop before the intersection and never go across, and when you're attempting,
you'll get to 42nd Street in Lexington Ave and never progress beyond that point.
And you'll get honked at if you don't say go out and block the box or do other illegal things, right? Or there's all sorts of stuff.
Hey, I used to work in the Bronx. I at one point,
or like if you don't double park, you'll just never park.
I at one point drove on the sidewalk.
Yep, I've seen that happen.
And I did it because everyone else was doing it, and it was the only way to get to the entrance ramp to the freeway that I was trying to get onto.
Basically, if everyone followed all the rules all the time, you would have almost permanent gridlock. But at the same time, when people don't follow the rules, right? It's like we've gone, there's like a balance, right?
Well, there's 2 sets of rules. There's a real set of rules, then there's the laws. For example, jaywalking, in my opinion, is 100% okay. You should be able to jaywalk anytime you want.
Yeah, there's no point in just standing there when there's a completely empty road and not crossing.
But if you enter the street when you do not have the right of way, and you're entering the street causes anyone else to have to alter their path, you, sir, are a douche nozzle.
Yep. Why is it always the douche nozzle?
I don't know. I like the term douche nozzle.
As opposed to the douche bag?
Douche nozzle, because a douche bag, all the douche is like in them. Like they're a bag of douche. And if you interact with
The
them.
nozzle is where the douche comes out.
Yeah, but the douche bag, if you interact with them, you might get douche on you. But the douche is mostly their douche. You can avoid them. The douche nozzles are spraying their douche all over everyone else. Just douchey, 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 douche.
All right, sure. But yeah, watch this video and you'll get an idea of what it's like. You know, and the thing is, this is just one intersection for like one day. So there's thousands of intersections in the city. Most of the outer boroughs ones are not all as bad as this, but many of them are. There's a few thousand intersections that are this bad almost all the time. And at night, you know, and weekends, it's a little easier. But tourists make it a little bit worse. And, you know, it varies, obviously.
This is very similar to, I didn't use it as a thing of the day, but there's this video someone sent me of, and I think it was on College Humor later, the guy who got a ticket for not riding in the bike lane.
Which is not illegal.
Yeah, not even a law. But so to protest this, because he was out of the bike lane because it was blocked, he rode around the bike lane ramming into anything that was in the bike lane. People, cars, trash bins, anything.
I think really what we need to do is there are certain violations, right, that could be ticketed with almost 100% enforcement, right? But they're not. Pretty much ever enforced, you know, at least very rarely enforced. And I think if we enforce them and the penalties were severe, right? I'm talking about like thousands of dollars.
Well, here's a good example. Outside of my building, right, is the approach to the Queensboro Bridge.
Yep.
And occasionally, as in every goddamn day, there are cops directing traffic because the traffic lights are not timed very well.
Yep.
So occasionally, the cops will stop traffic on the approach to the bridge to let other people go by while the light is green, which causes everyone waiting to honk their horns, even though honking your horn is illegal on that street.
Yeah, they could have one more cop, right? Basically,
just write $350 tickets to 100 people every 10 minutes.
He could just stand amongst the cars, and anyone who honks just slap a ticket on the window. I think part of the problem is that to write a ticket is actually... It's kind of weird, right? If a cop has to write a ticket, he has to get your license and registration and your insurance card and talk to you and waste a bunch of time.
You need a ticket gun.
Right?
He shoots your car with it.
But they have in many places, and they're totally legal, they have red light cameras.
But those are starting to be torn down or shot
because they're
down.
not economical.
Also, because some places where there's referendums able to be passed,
they got rid of them.
There have been referendums to get rid of them, even though the towns wanted them.
But I'm saying is that they are legal, so it is possible. An Easy Pass lane can give you a ticket for running a toll just with a camera. So I think we need to
simultaneously. There is that technology. This was from like 2 decades ago, but I remember seeing a cool demonstration of it. It was a sniper finder, where you set up this system, and if a gunshot goes off, 3 spotlights immediately aim at where the gunshot came from.
I think what we need is a balance between those two things. Give cops a special camera where they take a picture of a car and they get the license plate in the picture, and then a menu comes up and they enter the violation, and then the ticket is mailed. So a cop could stand amongst the parked, the cars that are honking their horns, take a picture of the cars that honk with this camera, and then touch the button that says honk the horn.
We could just
illegally.
have a honk camera. A camera that just takes pictures of honking cars.
But that would run into the same problems as the red light camera. That's why I'm saying we need the balance.
Except it's almost all cabbies who are honking, and the people who live in the area who would actually get to vote or interact with the civic government. No, because all the cabbies don't live right here. They get their cabs fixed right here. They don't live here. They live slightly further away.
But imagine, for example, let's say there's a street and everyone's double parked in the whole street. The cop is too lazy to walk down the street writing a ticket for every freaking car. But imagine if he could just go
in Manhattan they do.
Sometimes. But imagine if a cop, all he had to do was go picture, picture, picture,
Dude,
picture,
there's a line
picture.
of delivery trucks parked on 41st Street every day. Every one of them every day gets a new ticket. One of them has like 100 tickets on it.
Nice.
And I don't think anyone ever pays those tickets.
Well, that's another thing, right, is that they should make the penalties much more severe, right? And I mean, there's something to be said for punishment fitting the crime. You don't want to be like, double parked, death. That would be bad, obviously. Or jail. That would also be bad, right?
Death would really only be for, say, if you're riding a fixie without brakes.
Right, but it's like they do give, some pretty high fines. It's like passing a school bus on the wrong side when the stoplight is out is like $350, $450, which is pretty big, but it's not so big that it, is like devastating, right? So people still kind of do it. And the enforcement rate isn't so high, so people still kind of do it. What if almost every time you double parked, like 99% of the time you got a ticket, and the ticket was $2,000? You would see double parking fucking disappear real quick. Because pretty much everyone would make the mistake once, and $2,000 later they would stop.
But thus the secondary problem. People double park because there just isn't enough parking.
I know. And it would just be tough shit, don't park.
Yeah, that's trouble when there's more people who live in an area with cars than there are spaces.
You know who would love this?
Me?
People who own parking garages.
Yep.
And the thing is, parking garages don't charge nearly enough as much as they should. Parking garages should charge way more.
Well, it depends. I mean, the economics of it works out well right now.
Yeah, but that's only because a lot of the places where there are parking garages, I figured that I learned this. The reason that there's often a parking garage on a spot is because something about the land in that spot made it so that you couldn't build anything else there. So, like, people wanted to build a building, but they couldn't. Parking garage is the only thing that you're allowed to build there, so they did.
So anyway, very briefly in the meta moment, ConnecticCon's coming up. You should check that out if you're anywhere near Connecticut. We're going to be at the Penny Arcade Expo. We might be at PAX Dev. The book club book is Isaac Asimov's Foundation. The unofficial book club book is all of the Prince of Nothing books by R. Scott Backer. And that's about it.
Yep.
Nothing big coming on other than that. It's summer. And Radio Free Equestria will move to a Wednesday upload schedule instead of a Sunday upload schedule. Because I realized that if I put it up Sunday night, people can't watch it at work on Monday, and I actually got a lot of complaints about that.
This weekend, Saturday and Sunday, is Game Hack Day in New York City. I think it's at General Assembly. If you go, just search Google for Game Hack Day. You can come on Saturday if you actually want to make a game. You can help me join my team. It's gamehackday.org. You have to register, but it doesn't cost anything. If you can also register just to come on Sunday, which is where you only see the demos, right? So the schedule is like doors open, hacking begins 10 a.m. on Saturday, 8 p.m. is a party, you hack overnight. You still hack overnight, and then at noon on Sunday, you register to show your demo. Demo registration closes, and then at 2 o'clock on Sunday, we start showing demos. So if you just want to see the demos of things people hacked, you can come at 2 on Sunday. But if you want to work on a game, it's from 9 a.m. Saturday to 2 p.m. Sunday. So it's sure to be a fun time. Sure to see a bunch of people making cool, new, interesting, mini games and things like that. There's going to be a bunch of Game Duinos there. I think the Game Duino guy is coming. I got to talk to him because my Game Duino doesn't fit on top of my Ether Shield, even though he said it would.
So, what do we do about DNS? It's starting to become problematic because as a pedant, I disagree with all the changes that have been coming lately.
Yeah, it's like, ICANN, when they started out, was doing good stuff, as far as not, it wasn't VeriSign anymore.
Yeah.
Right? But more recently, they've been starting some bad news.
It's like the sellout just started happening all at once. I mean, I think .brand name TLDs.
We should go and look and see, like, if the people on the ICANN board changed, and that maybe instigated these, there was some borderline between the period of good decisions and bad decisions.
Yeah.
There was a changing of the guard we didn't hear about.
I mean, it doesn't help that the majority of users of the internet and people who are, like, creators of the internet pretty much immediately gave up on DNS as it was designed. And everything became, it was kind of like this binomial nomenclature. Like, it was like something, and no one used, like, proper subdomaining. I mean,
nope.
Imagine a world when there was cats.org, and then there was something.cats.org, something.cats.org.
Yeah, why do the first web... a lot of the problem is that the vast majority of DNS is used for the web, even though it's used for other things as well.
Yeah.
But why did web browsers, the like Mosaic, I guess, why did they put the domains backwards in the first place?
Oh, that's how the spec was.
Really?
Yeah, that's just how it was kind of designed.
It's like, because they could have made the original browsers do com dot whatever, right?
Well, you can think of, imagine reading it as though the dots are at. So I'm going to www.cats.com. Then it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's the www server at cats, and cats
but it's not an
at,
it's a dot. But think of it this way: what if the URL said org.cats.www? Then things like the up button would sort of make sense, right? You could go up.
Oh, wait! You mean like Usenet?
Yeah, right. Exactly what I'm saying.
Alt.furry.porn.more porn.
Exactly. Navigationally, it would make a lot more sense, and you also would save a lot of typing. Because you wouldn't have to always put the .com at the end. The com would just always be there, and you would just replace, like, that last part.
I think part of it is that as soon as the internet grew at all, people were no longer cooperative in this world. Like, it was an ecosystem where there
I should make a Chromium fork that displays the URL properly, and like it's just the HTTP com dot is always there, and you start typing after it by default.
So, I mean, think about if in the old system, it would only work if whoever managed cats.com was willing to share and work with everybody and be kind of neutral on all issues.
Yep.
Whatever.cats.com, whatever. You needed this huge chain of trust for that to work. And as we've learned, as soon as the internet opened up to the masses, and even slightly before that, you can't trust anyone, and the chain of trust basically didn't extend past the TLDs immediately. So we're stuck with that. I can't argue.
Well, the other problem is that there used to be just one registrar, right? And now anyone can be a registrar pretty much. Even Google's a registrar. And because of that, there's a bunch of people in the domain, even now, still in the domain money-making game.
Yeah,
let's play money-making game.
Domain name squatting would have been trivial to quash. It's just that no one involved actually wanted to quash it.
Yeah. And it's even now, some of the policies that ICANN is thinking up are like, for these new top-level domains they're coming up with, they're going to have, like, proportional pricing. Like, a word in the domain. If your domain that you want to register has words in it, it'll cost more than if it's a bunch of random gibberish. Or the less characters in the domain you register, the more money it'll cost, as opposed to having a flat registration fee across the board.
Well, it seems like this is really aimed at brand names.
Yeah.
That is just .brand name. So we could get .geeknights.
We could.
And then everything we do would be .geeknights, and I feel like that's...
If that becomes available, we have to get it, but they might charge a lot of money for it.
They probably will charge a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I almost don't want it at that point.
I know, right?
But maybe if they do it this way, maybe they'll have something like you can't get something that someone else's trademark.
Maybe. There's been a lot of discussions about that as well.
But then there's the problem of the fact that trademarks in America don't necessarily line up with trademarks in other countries.
I know.
And you can have two trademarks that are identical but are in different realms.
Yeah.
Now what?
This is a huge problem because you have this internationally shared system, and the laws about this system are different everywhere, right?
Luckily,
so what if I get .McDonald's, but I live in a country where I have the trademark for McDonald's? Can the McDonald's in the United States? Maybe that McDonald's is a bad example because it's a global company.
Scott, here's the answer: the U.S. one will always win because whether or not people agree with it being the right thing or not, most of the internet infrastructure is in the U.S. Most of the control of the internet is in the U.S. And pretty much, .com is synonymous with .us.
But the other problem is, right, even if we go to like a distributed DNS system, right, then we'll get rid of all these, governmental and whatever money issues, but instead we'll have the incredible trust issues.
Plus, look at originally the idea of adding like .biz and all these other TLDs was to allow more people to get domains. We were running out of useful domain space because that was before the era of everyone just types in what they're looking for in the browser bar and Google just figures it out.
Yep.
Which means DNS doesn't matter that much anymore to most people.
Well, yeah, most people only use DNS for the web, right? At least as far as they know. And if they just Google everything, we could just get, Google there's some browsers that are experimenting with hiding the location bar, and just you click on links for everything and Google search everything.
Yeah.
And then, the URL could be a fucking IPv6 address. You don't even give a shit because you don't see it. But then you still need to be able to give someone or tell someone in the world a URL for them to go to, and it can't, if it's numbers, that's not going to work.
We could replace that with QR codes.
QR codes are helpful, but you still need to be able to tell somebody, right? It can't. What
Come
if
on,
someone
audio
doesn't
is
have a
obsolete.
Phone? What if someone doesn't have a phone?
Nah,
right?
Who cares?
It still needs to happen. And also, there's a lot of time. What if you say want to go configure you need to configure your phone to connect to your Gmails. So what if you can't type in mail.google.com? You have to type in a bunch of gibberish. That's going to make it a lot more difficult for a lot of people.
Yep. But I think the real, to get back to what I was going for this, I think the real reason this happened is just a gigantic cash grab because every big company already buys every domain that's even close to the name of their company.
Yeah, I mistyped Amazon today, and I ended up at Amazon. And before I was able to correct myself.
However, if you mistype FARC, you get to a surprising number of extremely shady websites. But I feel like every big company is just going to have to buy everything even close to their company's name.
Yep.
And no one else is really everyone else is going to be priced out of this.
Pretty much.
I mean, maybe Valve will get .valve or .steam. That could be a little cool.
Yeah, it could be cool, but it's not like,
If I had money, I would do whatever I could to get .sucks.
Nah. That's gonna be like $1 million.
$1 million, you kidding?
And then someone's gonna have the trademark on sucks.
Then I could get like someone on Slashdot had the same idea. They're like, so then I can get ican.org.sucks.sucks.sucks.
No. Maybe we should get Cox, and then we can do sucks.cox. And then we could do anything else. You could do whatever, sucks Cox.
I'm going to turn into a techno kind of pedant for a moment. My only technological argument against this is that the whole point of top-level domains is to not have a flat namespace.
No.
We already fucked it up by having the second level effectively be a flat namespace. Because Geeknights. If we were a big company, we'd own geeknights.com, .org, .gov, .biz, .everything.
Well, they're not going to have it be completely flat, right? They're just going to have, more.
Oh, no, this is the first step. You realize, I'm pretty sure, eventually, if you have money, you can get whatever the fuck you want.
Well, if they do it that way, why don't they just get rid of DNS and just have it be one flat namespace? Forget the hierarchy entirely.
Yeah, because the thing is, some people are going to have the business model of getting .sucks and then selling something .sucks.
Yeah, that's a good business model.
Yeah, that's going to be a great business model for a long time to come, probably.
You know what? I should write a piece of software that basically, where if you have a top-level domain, you plug it in, and it does the job of selling the regular domains.
Yeah. This is going to be like another gold rush of domain squatting.
Well, they're thinking about doing some sort of auction system, too.
I know. And imagine how many lawsuits there are going to be about trademarks immediately.
It's just...
Everything about this pisses me off.
Why? This is why, right? We need the only people who should ever make decisions about technology
are Tim Berners-Lee.
Are technology people.
Tim Berners-Lee and Steve Jobs, maybe.
He's a technology person.
Wozniak.
Yeah. Only technology people should be allowed to make technology decisions, right? You wouldn't let me, decide some medical decision for you. Why? Because I'm not a fucking doctor. So why are we letting these governments, who are politicians, we can let them make political decisions.
But many governments do have a position like technological secretary or something.
But meanwhile, the United States, what was he, the chief information officer, Vivek Kundra? He quit. He just quit.
Yep.
He's gone. He's going to Harvard.
I have a feeling if I had that job, I would quit.
No.
Or I would go crazy and just punch somebody in Congress.
Yeah. I think what we actually need...
I just picture myself like running into Congress just like punching people until
if I wanted to,
out.
If I wanted to experiment with new forms of government, I would have some form of government where it was pretty much...
Technocracy?
Well, no, I don't know if you would call it technocracy, but basically, right, there would be the president of doctors, and the doctors would vote for the president of doctors.
How do you decide who's a doctor in the first place?
They have medical degrees.
So anyone with a medical
from accredited
degree?
Universities.
Anyone with a medical degree from an accredited university. And they elect their doctor. So who counts as a tech guy then? Who counts for IT? Only people with IT degrees?
We'd have...
I mean, do you not get a vote?
Obviously...
God, you don't get a vote in the IT president because I have a degree in IT.
Obviously, pragmatically, right?
It's a terrible idea that can't work.
Our current world doesn't have this, system in place. And you'd have to, if you wanted to realistically do this, you'd sort of have to start based on our, current organizational constructs and evolve them into so over time to something newer and better.
I would argue it's impossible because even if you ignore the vast majority of the concerns around it, there's a primary concern that everyone involved in the process has a vested interest in corrupting it to their own ends.
Yeah, but what you do...
And there's no way to have a system of checks and balances because every group regulates itself.
Nope, there's an easy way to make a system of checks and balances.
Nah.
You will have the Justice Squad, all right? And the Justice Squad basically are people who love to go catch corrupt people. And if you're corrupt, flang. All
right, so the Justice Squad is already 10 corrupt guys and one guy who doesn't know the rest are corrupt.
Nope, because there's the watching watchmen, and they watch each other, and they just really want to flay each other.
Look ye mighty.
Exactly. So, the penalty is so severe. It's not like, you get a slap on the wrist and you get to go work at a company instead of being in the government anymore, right? It's, you're corrupt, even if you're a little corrupt. Oh, what's that? You gave some government money to some company, you favored them on a government contract. Guess what? Flaying. Yeah, no one will fucking do that anymore.
I feel like if I had my druthers and I had control of DNS.
Obviously, the flaying is a joke.
Yeah.
Not that I wouldn't like to see a few flayings.
It depends on the context.
It depends.
Flensing, perhaps.
Oh shit.
Much worse than flaying.
You're getting too rough on me. There's a reason I didn't go that far.
If I had my way with DNS, I would not let any of this happen.
No kidding.
And I would set it up such that you couldn't effectively domain squat. And there are ways to prevent that, mainly by not letting, there was that, the borrowing system where you could like get a domain name, but not have to pay for it if you gave it back before a certain amount of time. There were like all these loopholes that would be so trivial to get rid of.
Here's the solution for domain squatting. You ready? Some sort of system that counts like DNS queries, and if your domain isn't queried, then you lose it. Also, there's a lot of this whois shielding. I would basically, I would just have a thing that goes and checks the whoises, and it would actually be like a group of people, and all they do is slowly check the whoises. They don't have to do it very efficiently.
All right, Scott, so I hire some guy to get the domain in his name, but really it's mine. Done. I'm safe.
As long as he's got his full address and everything on there, and it's for real.
Also, do you worry? I mean, I'm ambivalent on that, because on one hand, I like the idea that you could get a domain name, and yet you're anonymous. But on the other hand, I feel like the privilege of a domain name is worth forcing people to legitimately identify themselves, thus making domain names very powerful mechanisms of trust.
You know what we could do is we could set up a separate DNS system.
Anonymous domains and verified domains.
Yeah, and basically you would choose, like, it would be normal people would never be able to use this. But I could imagine a user interface where in your web browser, you basically have a little pull down or some sort of switch that switches between namespaces, right?
Yeah.
So you'd like click and it would be like old world DNS would be the default, and you would like uncheck the checkbox or go to the pull down.
For example, maybe I'll go to, anonymous lead hacker dot something that is totally anonymous, and I'm taking my life in my own hands when I go there, at least my browser.
Right, so like in the normal DNS system, google.com points here, but in the nerd special DNS system, google.com goes to some other server.
Nerds could just do that.
We could just set that up. We don't even need new software. You just bind.
Yeah.
I install bind, and everyone just changes their DNS settings to point at it. Done.
Yeah,
the only problem is that the way most
the only problem
most DNS clients, right, the way they're set up is to just go down the list of DNS servers, trying each one in order. They're not set up to you'd have to basically have some sort of resolve.conf switcher that switched it back and forth all the time.
The way that DNS actually works is one of those weird things where I feel like I know it because I went to university, and most techies don't actually know how DNS works.
No, most
they run into weird problems they can't understand why when they try to multi-home themselves.
Yeah, even tech people, most of them, all they know is that names translate into numbers, and that's all they know.
Yeah, tell me what a quadruple A record is, and we'll talk.
I know what a 1A record is. I don't know what a quadruple A record is.
Really? You don't?
Yeah.
So what's a 1A record?
That's just you map, a domain directly to an IP address.
Yeah, you know what a quadruple A is?
What?
Same thing, IPv6.
Oh, I didn't know that IPv6 had to have a different name.
Yeah, how about MX record?
That's for mail.
The mail exchange, yeah.
Yeah, that's because when an email client is looking for the IP address, it doesn't just look for, say, the A record. It looks for the MX record.
Here's a sad question. Don't feel bad if you can't answer this one, because I've never interviewed anyone ever who could answer it. And these are all people who had DNS written on their resume.
All right.
What's a PTR record?
It's I used it once. It's
fuck.
I used it for Jabber or some shit.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, but I forget.
It's the reverse lookup.
No, reverse.
That's all it is.
That's the reason that I don't know that is because every time I set up the reverse
it's automatic
lookup,
for most people?
No, it's that when you set it up, it's in a separate UI as opposed to actually being a PTR record.
Oh, because you set it up through our provider, right?
Yeah, it's every other...
I write DNS configuration files.
Yeah, every other kind of record I set up, even TXT records and MX records, they're all in the same blob of text, but the PTR record is in a separate bit.
Ah.
You don't just put it in with the other records.
And don't even get into, people can't ever explain to me, in.adder.arpa or any of that, but but no, people who wrote DNS on their resume never could tell me what a pointer record was.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of sad we have this system, and it's basically the whole internet relies on the system very much.
Not just that system.
And it's mismanaged, and people don't know how it works.
I think we've got a bigger problem, that a lot of the core architecture of the internet, this is the separate show, I think, is based on technology where there are fewer people who know it today than I think there were 20 years ago.
Maybe.
I think fewer people understand how things like NTP or SNMP work now than did 20 years ago.
Yeah, because they're probably more of the people who worked on it are dead or forgot or fell out of practice or things have changed and they haven't kept up with it, and fewer people have picked up on it and learned it from scratch.
Yep. I mean, the number of people I've met in my life who can configure an Apache server, like Guru legit style configure for performance, I've met maybe 4 people who I think could do that on a 9 out of 10.
I mean, I can do it 9 out of 10, but I can't do it 10 out of 10.
No one can do a 10 out of 10. There was one guy and he's dead.
There's all sorts of magic, weird shit I just ignore in there.
Yeah, I often look up what other people have done who I trust.
It's like I know a whole bunch of it, but I only know the parts that you have to use 90% of the time.
Yep,
Those
like
parts that you don't really use that often that are configured by default to be the right way.
A lot of it's the performance tuning stuff I'm often unclear on.
I've studied it and done it a whole bunch of times, and it's still confusing because the documentation is just so awful. Especially depending on what modules you use underneath, it can get really fucked up, right? It's like, well, the worker NPM works like this, and the event NPM, which is new, works like this. But what if you have the mod WSGI working underneath the worker NPM? Well, and that has its own specified configuration. What then? And you even ask people, they can't give you straight answers. People who are, pretend to be experts.
Yeah, I had one of those O'Reilly books on like mastering Apache, and I never read it.
Yeah. But yeah, this is sad. I don't know what we're gonna do.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.